Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Tuesday, September 10, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Dave Weigel, author of the Americana newsletter at Semafor, previewing the big debate, and also on the Semafor article discussing who paid right-wing social media to attack Kamala Harris as a slut.
Oh.
Yes. And you're not going to believe who the voice of reason was. Meanwhile, debate night, 2/3 of Americans are expected to tune in tonight. We will be doing coverage, but stick around for our special instructions on how to watch us because of the evil empire Disney. Meanwhile, Israel drops 2,000-pound bombs on tents in Israel-designated safe zone, killing at least 41 civilians, wiping out entire families.
As they slept.
This, as Israel also admits to killing Senor Agi, the American citizen who was protesting the Israeli occupation in the West Bank. Back to this country, new polls has Harris leading nationally by a hair. Quinnipiac out this morning. Harris up in North Carolina, down in Georgia. It's final primary day today in Delaware, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island. And 33,000 Boeing machinists expected to reject the deal that we announced yesterday and go on strike. Meanwhile, Republicans threatening to quash Mike Johnson's plan to keep the government open. The New York Police Department commissioner is expected to step down as federal investigators swirl around Mayor Eric Adams, the once future of the Democratic Party, now part of the Menendez caucus.
Yes.
Or soon to be part of the Menendez caucus.
Come on, he's just a fan of Turkish food.
All this and much more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. It is
Newsday Tuesday.
Newsday Tuesday. We got a lot to cover today. Obviously, the big debate tonight. I'll mention this a couple of times. We're going to do what we did last time, which is we're going to stream on our alt channel. You can get on the app, majorityapp.com. Get the app. We will send you the link to the alt channel later in the program. What is the address of the alt channel?
We were just talking about that. We're going to put that into the description here.
Okay. If you don't have, if you're not in our YouTube space or wherever, pick up the app, majorityapp.com. We don't track you. We don't have a SDK or whatever the hell that's called. Put your notifications on. You can turn them off tomorrow. We will send you the link. We will also have a live stream tonight, but it will basically be the side of my face on my phone. Not even basically, like completely, like more or less. And occasionally I will turn to that camera like this and tell you the address of where the actual thing is, because apparently Disney feels like they own the rights to our democracy, and
They've done so much for us.
They're going to shut down stuff. So, and then following the debate, we're going to do our debate wrap up on the main channel. I know that's complicated, but
Blame corporate capture.
they will
rights,
give us a
baby.
strike. Because
we said this as we said with the last debate. It's absolutely unconscionable that corporations are allowed to have copyright over the debate over our presidential election.
should be
that's the thing. It's like
unconstitutional.
I can see like the primary debates, because the primaries are really sort of like private,
Right.
debates amongst like party things. Like I can almost see that, but the idea that we have naming rights, or like that a network can buy the idea of the one presidential debate that we're going to have between the two candidates is just absolutely bat crap crazy in my mind. But it is what it is. Meanwhile, Israel dropped I don't know how many you need, 2,000-pound bombs on tents full of sleeping families in Gaza, killing at least 41. The numbers are bound to be higher. In addition to the U.S. saying in the past, the use of 2,000-pound bombs are completely unjustified throughout Gaza, never mind in terms of tents. Also, be aware, this is about, 3 minutes by car from the ocean. And so you're talking, and you'll see this. It's all sand. There's no hidden tunnels underneath here. And here's some footage of what it looks like in the aftermath. Look at the size of this crater.
Unbelievable.
كثير في هذا المكان حفرة عميقة لا توصف في هذا المكان جراء استهداف أكثر من
And turn the volume down a little bit. Yeah, everything is completely obliterated. We should also say that the head of essentially the civil services, search and rescue, he was killed. I think it was a couple of days ago, along with his family. By Israel.
And you can see people are using their hands to dig. This is another thing that Israel has been doing since the start of this genocide, is they've been handcuffing or bombing or attacking the machinery people need just for like these basic medical functions, including excavating these craters to find the bodies of loved ones who are, in smithereens. I'm sure you can see some of their belongings. And it's every day. It's not getting coverage because, of course, of the election, and that's just and it's unconscionable. But every day I open my Twitter feed, and I see a little girl shredded. Like her arms are it's like they're just shredded into pieces, like splayed apart, or another toddler with half her brain falling out.
Finding a leg with a cell phone flashlight.
We can't show these images, but we have to describe them, because it's not just bombs and people disappear and go into space. There are people suffocating to death for days under rubble.
Here is a Sky News report. Of course, Israel has some type of justification in their mind, but understand, this is the humanitarian zone. And it's in quotes. This is the safe zone. This is where Israel said to these families, these refugees, go and you'll be safe here, because we're bombing the hell out of everywhere else. And they bomb the hell out. It's not the first time that they've done this, but it's just, it's insane. It's insane. And this, as William Burns, the head of the CIA, has basically said, there's just simply no will on the part of Israel to have a deal. So this is not happening. But listen to their justification here. Supposedly this was a major tactical hub for Hamas. Listen.
Gaza now, where local officials say at least 40 people have been killed in an Israeli airstrike. Well, our Middle East correspondent, Alistair Bunkle, joins us from Jerusalem. Alistair, what more can you tell us? What's the latest?
Well, the strike happened overnight. The Israeli military say that they used precision munitions and surveillance before carrying out the strike.
Pause it for a second. 200-pound bomb is literally the definition of non-precision weaponry. Go ahead.
And surveillance before carrying out the strike in order to limit civilian casualties. But the health ministry, the Palestinian health ministry, says that at the moment 40 people are suspected to have been killed in the strike, more than 60 wounded, and they say there are still dozens missing. This took place in the middle of a tented camp in a humanitarian zone, a place called Al-Mawasi, which is quite close to Khan Yunis, towards the south of the Gaza Strip. Now, the IDF say that they were targeting significant Hamas operatives who were planning terror attacks against IDF forces within Gaza and Israeli civilians.
There's no such thing as a terrorist attack against a military target. That does not exist. That's not what it is. You want to call it a guerrilla attack? But there's no such thing as terrorism against a military force, particularly one that is invading your territory. Never mind the occupation. That's a whole nother, that's like another layer of argument. But this is just basic. Words have meaning. Go back.
Terror attacks against IDF forces within Gaza and Israeli civilians. It's not clear how they could have been, given the situation now in Gaza and the condition of Hamas. It's not quite clear what terror attacks they could have been planning within Israel, except possibly to fire rockets into Israel. And the other thing that the IDF have not done is named any of the targets that they either successfully hit or were aiming at. And so at the moment, what we know is that the loss of life appears to be very, very large indeed, and we wait to see whether the Israelis tell us more about who it was they were trying to hit.
I mean,
at that press conference that Biden did at the NATO summit in the wake of his disastrous debate performance, he was asked specifically about 2,000-pound bombs that he'd been sending to Israel. His quote was, "I'm not providing the 2,000-pound bombs. They cannot be used in Gaza or in any populated area without causing greater human tragedy and damage." He said this in July. Truth Out points out in this piece, in the past 9 months alone, however, Biden officials have sent at least 14,000 2,000-pound bombs to Israel, Reuters reported in June, as well as 6,500 500-pound bombs, 2,600 250-pound bombs, 3,000 Hellfire missiles, 1,000 unspecified bunker buster bombs, among other munitions. So that's like that. When you see the image of that crater, we all paid for that. We all paid for that with our tax dollars collectively. And Biden, who is a known liar, frankly, throughout his entire career, plagiarism scandals, a scandal took down in part one of his presidential campaigns back in the day. This is a lie. And look, the governments lie to you all the time, but they have been lying about the munitions that we've been providing and what that use has been. They've been lying about what the red lines are, including the Rafah operation, and it was implied that the continued usage of these 2,000-pound bombs in this area would be a red line for the Biden administration, and there have been no red lines. So, like, Blinken came out with remarks specifically about the killing of the young Turkish-American activists in the West Bank that are considered some of the more strong language that has been used so far. But again, language, no action on this front.
All right, in a moment, we're going to talk to Dave Weigel. He's the author of the Americana newsletter at Semafor, a well-known reporter of politics, and we will be previewing the debate in just a moment. First, a couple of words from our sponsors. First sponsor today. Oh, Bradley, would you do me a favor and grab my, I forgot to bring it over to my desk.
Oh, your bottle?
Yes. Every day.
Every
That sounds
day,
fun.
Sam has it. Yeah.
Every day, these days, I have to drink just to get through the day.
No, this is not a Bill Maher bringing onto set with children bottle.
Right. No, this is it.
Liquid IV.
This is my liquid IV. I every day I prepare myself a bottle, sometimes two, which I drink throughout the show to keep myself hydrated and energized. So it doesn't matter whether you're going to the trail, to the campsite, or just basically sitting at your desk, talking for 3 hours every day. Liquid IV Hydration Multiplier Plus Energy delivers 100 milligram of natural caffeine plus 3 times the electrolytes, the leading sports drink, so you can accomplish all the things you want and need to. They've combined their popular peach flavor with a highly requested blackberry to awaken your senses and keep you coming back for more. They have all sorts of different types of liquid IV. They got the ones with caffeine, ones without the caffeine. They have ones without sugar now, which are some of my favorite. I mean, look, I don't have to, all I can tell you is that for, I don't know how many years it's been now, 4 or 5 years, this is what gets me through every show. If I go on a trip, I'll take a couple of packets in my suitcase.
It kind of saved me this weekend, liquid IV. I had went out with my friend who likes to drink, and I was smart enough to have some liquid IV before bed, and I had a great day the next day.
There you go. Tear, pour, live more. 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Liquid IV is powered by LIV Hydroscience, which is apparently an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sport drink, has 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. It's always non-GMO. It is always vegan. It is always gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. And the Hydration Multiplier Plus Energy delivers energy comparable to 1 to 2 cups of coffee through about 100 milligrams of naturally occurring caffeine. Enjoy the deliciousness of one of their best-selling flavors, peach, perfectly paired with a highly requested blackberry. I have not had this. I don't understand. Is the peach and the blackberry together, or are those separate? Because the blackberry sounds actually super interesting to me. I mean, I have peach right now, but the all-in-one formula provides mind and body energy plus hydration that leaves you focused, alert, and ready to take on anything. Take on the great outdoors with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com. Use the code MajorityRep at checkout. Not Majority Report, Majority Rep. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MajorityRep at liquidiv.com. Link in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Also, today's episode is also sponsored by Blue Land. Blue Land is part of my personal, and really it should be everybody's, sort of mission to cut out as much plastic as I can at home. And a big thing for me has been no more dish detergent. I have now completely finished all of them, and I am just now full on exclusively Blue Land tablets. They are fantastic. Now, how are the Blue Land tablets different than those little packets that you put in there? Those little packets, you know what's holding that stuff together? Plastic. It's just thin enough that it sort of like disintegrates, but it doesn't evaporate.
Yeah. Ugh.
It either goes into the oceans, gets ingested by fish or whatnot, or it goes onto your plate and gets ingested by you. Blue Land's on a mission to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet. All with the same powerful clean you're used to. Blue Land uses no single-use plastic in any component. Bottles, tablets, and wrappers to shipping. Their tablet packaging is fully compostable. What happens is I've got like also 3 different cleaners. I got the yellow, I got the blue, I got the pink. The pink is the bathroom, the blue is the windows, and the yellow is the all-purpose. I don't know why anybody didn't think about this before, but the bottles are those colors, so you always know. Then you get these tablets and these like paper packets. You drop it, you fill it up with water, you drop a tablet in, shake it, and there's your cleaning stuff. And you keep reusing the same bottles. Their dishwashing tablets are fantastic. Never had a better clean. And you can get even more savings by buying refills in bulk or setting up a subscription. Blue Land, now trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine. Blue Land has a special offer for our listeners. Right now, you get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/majority. Don't want to miss this. blueland.com/majority for 15% off. That's blueland.com/majority. Get 15% off. Load up on that first time. Get that 15% off. All right, we're going to take a quick break. In a moment, we'll be talking to Dave Weigel, author of the Americana newsletter at Semafor. Be right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Want to welcome back to the program the author of the Americana newsletter at Semafor, Dave Weigel. We had Dave by video, but he's in some type of structure in Philly, and it looked like a Kubrick shot that you had, but unfortunately the connection wasn't so great. So we got you on phone.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I went out of my way to find a place that would work, and it didn't work.
Well, that's all right.
Why no one should ever leave their home.
That's right.
It's a good message.
Never go anywhere. But I know you're on the road. You're heading to the debate tonight. I want to talk about the debate in a moment. But first, I want to talk about this story that you were part of reporting in Semafor. This story came out, and I don't know if it was coincidental or what, in the wake of the DOJ releasing the grand jury indictment against two Russians who were basically paying people like Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, a couple of others in the right-wing thing to put out videos, paying them a lot of money, incidentally. But they, of course, were victimized. We should all be so victimized so that, it's one of those reverse muggings where someone comes and shoves $500,000 into your pocket in the dead of the night. But be that as it may, your piece was about a Zoom meeting of right-wing influencers, we don't know who are getting paid money with a specific mission. Just walk us through what you found.
Yeah, so I teamed up with a few reporters because a different person got the tip, and we were all checking people that we heard were on this call who kept denying that they were on it. That could be a lie. It could be a misunderstanding by the person doing it. But everybody had the same details were confirmed by everybody. There was a guy using this name Bacon, like James Bacon, the same name as somebody close to Trump and Heritage, but not him, who had these calls where he was offering basically $10,000 if people coordinating their anti-Harris messaging. And the messaging wasn't that innovative. It was the sort of stuff that Trump and Vance were if not saying themselves, retweeting. Sort of how to talk about this in a diplomatic way. Very personal stuff about her love life and the choices she made as a woman. And George Santos bailed on this and said it didn't work. So that's sort of the person who confirmed the details here. But a window into how this is happening a lot. And if I had my journalist cap put on my head now, I will say it's ironic that at a moment when people have so much disdain for the media, so little trust for the media, for sources, etc., they do seem to just fall for people who might be getting paid off and retweet whatever they say.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I remember when we used to have those the jokes about the bloggers ethics panels, and this is a massive issue. But I want to go into this a little more. So we don't know who was paying the $10,000. I think at one point somebody was offered $20,000 to push this stuff. We don't know who it was, or is it just someone who has a similar name, or what? Go back over that detail for us again.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. One second.
No worries. We always get Dave Weigel on the run.
He's always out the trail. As Vivek.
Sorry, I'm trying to juggle 10 things at once here. Yes, when we approached the people who were the person who was doing this, the phone stopped working. They didn't answer the call, so somebody tried to cover their tracks. Their tracks is what happened. That's how we can't definitively answer who was doing this. And we were welcome for tips. Anyone wants to point to who's actually doing this.
So wait a second. So you got a tip that, and you've confirmed that people were getting, people on this call were getting $10,000 for this one gig, essentially?
We confirmed that. We have the evidence that this is being offered to people, and I think we ran it partly because this Russia story made it clear that a lot of money is moving around with people not asking very hard questions about it. You saw with the Russia $400,000 story, the only skepticism about where the money was coming from was answered by a one-page biography that looked really fake. It was like a guy who looked supposed to be a billionaire in a private jet. And here it wasn't even that. It was more how do we monetize a conversation and organize what people are doing on Twitter in a more politically effective way, but it wasn't clear who was behind it. Again, this is stuff it is sort of happening. If you go to X at any moment, you saw this in the last 24 hours with J.D. Vance calling for people to make racist memes of Trump saving cats from black people. You saw it does not take much of a push. And this is a pattern with some of these payola schemes, is that they're offering people money for something they're doing anyway, which if they really want to go to bed at night feeling good about this, they're not telling them to change their opinions. They're just saying, hey, you're doing a great job. Here's money for it. And finding people who don't ask a ton of questions about it. The reason Santos bailed is because he thought it was going to be stupid and it wasn't going to work.
Yeah, and Santos, now, did you confirm that with Santos? Because he also tweeted like 2 days after this call that, oh my gosh, look at what everybody's saying. Surprise, surprise, or something like that. This is what he did. Oddly enough, conservative influencers talking about Kamala's sex life and race. He tweeted July 24, less than 48 hours after he'd left the influencer call. Please, God, make it stop. So do you know if these people were exclusively on Twitter getting paid $10,000 to $20,000 to push this, or do they have other outlets?
No, they were riding the track so much that we can assume they probably are doing this through other means. It might just be one actor whose job was paying this small amount of money to some people who would coordinate their messaging like this. So no, we published a piece with some unanswered questions because it's very clear that something is happening all the time with money being dangled in front of people to do pro-Trump MAGA messaging. And we said, we've heard enough about this, but we know this happened. Santos, again, ratted it out because he thought it was stupid. He was commenting on this stuff online days after the call itself and confirmed the call. So this is happening. How many of these things are happening? Please come to us and tell us. If you are being offered money and you want to rat out the people who did it, please tell us who.
I'm not sure.
Or tell us at least what fake name they use.
Yeah, I'm not sure a ton of those people are probably listening to us today. But my thought with the whole Russian thing was exactly sort of what you're saying. That these people must be getting money like this of some sort on a fairly regular basis, because if somebody's coming to me and offering me $100,000 a month to do 4 videos, the first thing that would occur to me is like, there's no way people are going to get a return on this. What is going on here? And if you're willing to take that money, it seems to me you don't go from getting paid nothing to be putting out videos like that to taking $100,000 a month. You've got to be thinking, oh, okay, this is just, I've got a live one on and I'm going to reel this in. And then the other part where you said, I think it's absolutely true. This is more about subsidizing people in this space to keep them in it. I mean, Dave, I know you remember this, like back in the blogging days, a lot of those bloggers are gone now in terms of like you couldn't afford to do it. But this is keeping people in the basically in the arena. This is like all of these subsidies. It's not really a question of whether or not they're paying people to say something they don't believe in. They don't believe in anything, I don't think. It's they're being allowed to basically be profitable in a space where they wouldn't otherwise be able to.
Yeah, there's a lot of money sloshing around, and some of it's from deals with Rumble, deals with these networks. But in journalism, as you know, is not crazy lucrative. There are not a lot of people dangling huge checks for people to do unglamorous investigative reporting that's going to take 3 months and maybe pay off. There is a lot of money for getting your face on somebody's computer screen and agreeing with their priors and telling them that they're right, or sharing some fake stuff. At least one of the people getting the Russian Payola that we know about, separate from our story, was, again, 48 hours spreading the fake Haitians are eating cats thing. You need to have your shame portion of your brain removed to do this, and that's already happened for some of the people involved in this. And you also need an audience that's not going to care, which they apparently have. And if I could back up a couple of cases, the heuristic for all this is that in 2016, Russian agents hacked Hillary Clinton's campaign several times. Russia clearly wanted Donald Trump to win the election. And on the right, it's an article of faith that this is a crazy idea that Democrats made up in order to hurt Trump. Weirdly, not until after the election was over and they'd already lost. They seeded the deep state with a campaign to beat him, and every time you hear about Russia and Trump, it's fake. And you saw that response from a lot of Republicans. That was a very hands on the ears, la la la, I'm not listening. The response is usually Russia, 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 or Russiagate. Just saying if something is connected to Russia on the right, it is assumed that it is false. And I think that played out in 2 ways here. One on the financial end. If you have a doubt that maybe I'm getting money from a Russian agent or an operative, well, you've already convinced yourself this doesn't happen, so don't worry about it. And two, after it happens, there's not really like a consequence, because if you went and tell your listeners, sorry, I was paid off by the Russians, you sound like a simp. You sound like you're repeating Hillary Clinton's talking points, because in this space, it is understood that no, the Russians never acted. I think the reality that's been proven in court is that yes, there were Russian interference in the 2016 election. There's interference in every election. There's especially specific attempts successfully to steal Democratic email that time. And then also, there were a lot of liberals on TV who said silly things about Russia that weren't true. Like, that often happens. There are things that people say about every politician that people... Would Republicans, if they're pushed, admit that Hillary Clinton did not commit all the murders that she's accused of? Maybe they would. Everyone could agree that that rhetoric gets out of hand. I would have thought, except for this, it really is. If it involves Russia, there's just there's the negative permission structure. You just are not allowed to consider that you might be subjected to Russian influence, because you have said for 8 years that stuff is fake. It's fake to cast doubt on how Donald Trump won the presidency. Therefore, Russian influence can't exist.
It almost gave emboldened Russian money, I guess, to come into those spaces, right? For right-wing media. But I'm also curious about we had David Friedlander on, I guess, a few weeks ago to talk about his piece about Truth Social and how Trump, went public with Truth Social and that company, and it was a multi-billion-dollar valuation. But in May, Trump Media announced a quarterly revenue of $770,500 and losses of $328 million for that particular operation. It makes me wonder, how much is this money also being given to right-wing, even political organizations, or through just trading DJT on the publicly traded it's now publicly traded, right? And buying that stock. There's a lot of lack of oversight, particularly as it relates to Trump's own media operation and where that money is even coming from. How can you have a quarterly revenue of less than $800K and $328 million in losses and then pretend like there's not something shady going on here?
The answer is you win the election, say it didn't matter. This is what happened after 2016, where not just Russia questions, but questions about, for example, Donald Trump saying I'm going to release my taxes at some point for the 2016 election, and then never doing that. The answer from Kellyanne Conway that I think was repeated down the chain was, well, no, the election confirmed that people want Donald Trump, and anything litigated before the election doesn't matter. And that's basically the way this stuff is considered. And are there two sets of rules for people? Yes. Do positions that Kamala Harris took in 2019 before she was elected vice president, must they be answered now? Yes. Are there questions about Republicans that were asked in 2020 in 2015 that don't matter anymore? Oh yes, also that. Who gets a baptism and who doesn't is a very partisan question here. But no, you're right. There's just stuff that it depends. And the other part of this pressure that's not just political, but it's in that mix, is how much noise can you make so that that the Justice Department or U.S. attorneys don't investigate this stuff. If you make it look like it's a political investigation before an election that could affect the vote, then that's the argument you make. You might even go to court and say this is interference. This is an argument that I saw Darrell Issa making last week after Jack Smith, because of Eileen Cannon ruling in his case, just agreeing with this sort of fringe legal theory that Jack Smith wasn't constitutionally appointed. Jack Smith refiled his indictment. I saw Darrell Issa saying, "Oh, it's too close to the election to refile an indictment." I mean, this is what Trump has been better at many politicians doing based on his experience in New York. Is that the courts have lots of functions. They can also slow things down until your opponent runs out of money and time. And that's how he's generally done this. He has an echo chamber of Republicans agreeing to saying this. So yeah, what would happen if the FCC launched an investigation into True Social and who's trading it, if there was a spike in it? Well, one the thing that would happen would be the Trump campaign, Fox News, OAN, et cetera, saying Democrats are losing the election and they're trying to rig it against Trump by doing this.
Right.
That's the answer for everything. I think that answer only stops making sense if all of a sudden Trump was losing by 15 points. It looked like nothing was going to matter, or he was winning by 15 points. No, everything fits into that framework, and it's a very shut your brain off, don't pay attention sort of answer. And I'm not trying to be too dismissive, but it's been 8 years of this now. Please don't pay any attention to negative stories that don't fit our framework of how Donald Trump won the first time.
I still remain sort of fascinated about this dynamic here with first off, one more detail thing. Do you have any idea whether this was a standing Zoom call or not? Because it's one thing, okay, I find it hard to believe that whoever is offering $10,000 to these half a dozen people or so on this call, that they're not doing this every week, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find it hard to believe that they're taking all these security protocols so they can't be identified on this Zoom. And this is the first time it's happened. This sounds to me like this is the Tuesday call, or this is here's the bat signal. Let's all get on the call. This is a process, an ongoing process, because what I find fascinating about this and also the DOJ thing is I'm a little bit, look, Russia has this interest. It happens to align with a lot of other people's interests too, frankly, in the Republican Party. But what I find fascinating is that there is all of this money sloshing around being given and keeping these people afloat. And in one instance, it looks like maybe a standing Zoom call where everybody's getting their $10,000 on an ad hoc basis. That could be twice a week. It could be once a month. It could be, I don't know. How many times? Or you have this enterprise like Tenet Media, which was look, it's a real company. It just happens to be funded by, in the context of our elections and illegal money. But we got people setting up Rumble. We got people setting up Call-In. We got people setting up, whatever it was. What was that? Parlor. And I know people are getting paid money to go on these things. And basically, this is a subsidy to keep people in the game, essentially. And I'm convinced that much of right-wing media has been built on this just from having seen it within the context of the radio business.
No, I know what you're talking about. You don't need that. You don't need bribes necessarily, too, because I was accidentally way ahead on this story. Back in 2014, or I think it must have been 13 or 14, I wrote for Slate about RT, Russia Today, which now is I think classified as foreign op, but was a progressive sort of pro Ron Paul network. And if I had to describe the overall politics, they were hard to pin down, but they were the sort of people who then went on to be RFK Jr. voters. The people who said America is in decline. Look how bad things are getting. Look how corporations run the country. It had a coherent worldview, which was not Russia is amazing, but that America's falling apart, and we may be on the, to quote Tim Pool, who tweets this every day, one of the guys taking the Russian money, we're on the verge of civil war. You've heard that a lot. And that required just paying people who want to be journalists some money to do TV journalism. You're out of college, you get an opening at an international network, you're getting interviews and debates and going on the road to cover stories. But that wasn't bribes. That was one version of this, though, of just it doesn't need to, there's never going to be an ad that says, we love Vladimir Putin, let's support Russia over Ukraine. It's never that direct. It's just what will help undermine the people who are tougher on Putin. And I don't want to be too generic about this. Tough is like a loaded term. And the people who will be more likely to take his side in some war and peace negotiations. Let's help them out. You don't need to say Putin's amazing. You can just say, hey, undecided voter, doesn't it look like things are crazy? Doesn't it look like the country's falling apart? Doesn't it look like we're about to fall into civil war, that migrants are going to take your house? Well, just think about that. Share this meme about that. I mean, I've not to get too far afield, but when I've talked to conservative voters, I often I'll ask where they get media from, and it's been mushrooming, not just stuff like RT, but I met people a couple voters said they were redpilledbyifunny.com, which is just a meme website. And then, like, the memes they like are about how stupid Democrats are and about how the country's falling apart and you can't afford anything anymore. Like, pushing people to like, vote for the out-of-power, more pro-Putin party, lots of ways to do that that are less traceable or less scandalous than what happened here.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I guess, what brings me, I think, to maybe the election to a degree, and some of Harris's missteps, I think, over the past week or so. You know, I've felt like the campaign was doing a really good job of generating excitement, and the Walls pick, I think, was inspired. But this slump that she's been in over the past week or two, you know, one, I think we can obviously draw to a conclusion that, like, her continuation of the Gaza policy is depressing enthusiasm, of course, on the left. But there's also just this media strategy that I'm curious about what your take is, Dave, that is a continuation from the Biden campaign, where it's the same campaign infrastructure, same people running the campaign. And what I had thought was that, okay, they're not putting him out there for interviews, and they hadn't been doing that because of what we saw at the debate. He wasn't getting out there because the campaign was afraid to have him be out there for obvious reasons. And that seemed to make total sense in the wake of what we saw and him dropping out. But Harris's strategy of not talking to the media, it's been criticized. I think some of that's fair, some of that's unfair. But the reality is that it's become a story in and of itself because the press is frustrated, and she can complain that that's an unfair story. I think there's some validity, but the reality is now I'm wondering if it's beginning to hurt her, because Trump is going on all these alternative media sites, like he's doing Lex Friedman, he's doing Theo Vaughn, he's doing these. A lot of media, as is JD Vance, and Vance is more on like the cable news circuit, and Trump's on the alternate media circuit, and that seems to be a better strategy than just doing rallies and kind of not talking to the press in the same way. Like, I wish Harris was doing more podcasts or things like that, right? What's your assessment of that, and why is her campaign still pursuing the strategy when she can clearly speak extemporaneously?
Yeah, a couple things. Well, one, Biden was so weak that it was not just he couldn't do as many interviews as he was offered, but even at rallies, it was like skating on ice, watching Biden, because he could screw up at any moment. Right. And she hasn't had that problem. She's been a more commanding speaker. I'm not defending the campaign strategy, because I think, from talking to him throughout, and you get a little more insight at the convention. People are off the record. They didn't think they needed to, because of it's about winning every news cycle every day. And it did take probably 2 or 3 weeks for the Trump drumbeat of she needs to do interviews thing to land, because they saw, and I think they are right about this, the debate as the moment when people would say, can she handle pressure? Oh, yes, she can. This whole period from her becoming the candidate to now, she has gotten more popular. Her negatives have gone from negative 20 to tied to favorable. She's doing about as well. She's doing as well as Biden was in some places in 2020. She's basically running pretty far ahead of Hillary Clinton in favorables. The issue is really about Trump and what they can't control, which is, one, Trump is more popular than he was previously for lots of reasons. I think the main one that no one can change is 4 years after a president's in power, they say, things weren't that bad. He benefited from that. And so if this was Harris running against 2016 Trump, I think it'd be clear she wouldn't do anything. She'd be winning because people didn't want him to be president, but didn't trust her. She's in a bit. I think they solved one of their problems, which no one had solved before. Who has gotten into a campaign? Well, no one has in the summer. But who has been a national figure, totally went over for 6 years, started running for president and jumped 20 points? That doesn't happen. And they did that part, but they didn't answer the questions. And I was talking about the Trump campaign's response. The Trump drumbeat on this was desperate at first. Everything starts pretty desperate. If you remember the day that there was a dip in the S&P, J.D. Vance was demanding that Kamala go to the cameras and take questions if she wasn't ready president. You didn't need to go to the cameras and take questions to answer what was happening in the stock market. So it looked a little pathetic at first, and it got traction because there is a real story there of why Harris, who ran on a certain set of things in 2019, changed when she became vice president. The Harris campaign doesn't think this is super legitimate because she has been vice president for 4 years. Again, no one is going down Trump and saying, but in 2019 you said crypto's a scam and now you're not. That's true. I mean, he flipped his position, but he's not getting the same sort of scrutiny. They don't like the scrutiny. They have inherited the Biden team's cautiousness and frustration that the media, which really should be focused on Trump, keeps asking them stuff. And I think that's wrong because it's a fair question. I think there are a lot of liberals, not all of them vice presidents, who said some stuff in 2019, 20 they don't think anymore. And they could explain why. Hey, you said that defund the police was a good idea in 2020, and now you don't. Well, it's because I think that we need police reform, but it turns out that we don't need to cut police. We just need more funding for schools and violence interrupters. They have answers for this.
Right.
I've talked to candidates for Congress, and they'll say. And she hasn't done that. The risk that they worry about is, well, she does that, she looks weak. And how do you solve the problem? Do you look weak by saying, I changed my mind on this, I changed my mind on that, or by not answering the question at all? Again, they looked at the debate and said, all right, there's going to be a moment where she'll be on stage with Trump. We'll have to be ready for those questions, which millions of people are going to see. If she is tough with him for 90 minutes, who's the voter who's going to say, well, she was tough with Trump, but she couldn't handle Leslie Stahl? I think they're right that voter doesn't exist. But they just haven't respected that it's a fair question to say, why is she different? Hey, maybe the story is like a lot of people who run for office multiple times. She changed on some of her positions while remaining a progressive. I get why they're annoyed because the press does treat them differently than it treats Trump. But they can't. I'm repeating myself.
No, well, I mean,
but it doesn't mean the question's unfair.
Right. I mean, I think I'm with you on this in the sense that it's not the same, but she's also running with a fundamentally different assumption that Trump is completely abnormal and therefore and that she is within the bounds of, let's say, decency. And so the standards are different than they are for him. That's, I guess you could say it's unfair. I mean, it is unfair, but it's frustrating. But life is unfair. Their point is they need to figure this out, right? Like if you've got a basketball team and your second best player injures themselves, you can't say well, this is not fair. Yeah. You still gotta win. And so
that was. Go ahead. Sorry.
But I think that's and so I guess with that said, have you heard do they have a strategy? I mean, maybe one thing they have how much have they mapped this out? It makes sense to me that they could feel 3 weeks ago, look, the best thing for us to do is not to create any type of toehold for any type of criticism. So we're going to basically limit the amount that we expose you as a candidate until the debate. After the debate, it may be a different story, both because in terms of the way people pay attention. I mean, there's supposedly 2/3 of Americans are planning to watch tonight. That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and the Trump campaign's kind of lived off the land, and when she's had an answer that just made sense but was a little wordy, they pretended it was completely incoherent. It's tough for you to do that in a debate. The thing I mentioned 2016, Hillary Clinton did not do a lot of interviews in this stretch of the campaign, and it's actually most candidates don't. Trump has this media ecosystem where Trump can go talk to one of his donors, Elon Musk, for 2 hours, and people on the right say, that was a tough interview. That's pretty new. But Hillary Clinton was not doing media because every time she did, including just forums that were supposed to be about some other topic, they'd be like, why don't people trust you? What about your emails? Why don't people trust you? And they just got, I think, gun shy because of that, because they were annoyed and because they never got a good clip out of it. I was at one of the events where she was talking about the Supreme Court being on the ballot, and the question was, in speech that, not my headline, but, Clinton evades email questions at speech. They don't have that problem. They have this other kind of buckshot thing they've got going on where Harris took a bunch of positions in the past, and she's come up with a unifying reason. Oh, my values haven't changed. I realized on climate we could do this instead of the fracking ban. I realized that on criminal justice reform we could be smart on crime. She has answers, and the worry that they have is, yeah, but let's say you spend 30 minutes and everything is putting her on the defensive. that's the paradox here, because the through line of every Trump attack is this candidate is not confident enough to handle a crisis or a foreign threat. That wasn't credible with Clinton because she was Secretary of State and Trump at that point was just a TV star. They couldn't really say Hillary Clinton can't handle tough questions because she's weak. They ended up saying, she fainted, she might die. With Joe Biden, it was he's feeble, he's old, he can't handle them, and they were in a different media environment. With this, it's the newness of Harris, and she really is new to so many people who even voted for her, didn't pay a ton of attention last time.
Well, Dave,
it has been this attrition by Trump to say like she's too weak to do this, and the Democratic response is just this. I do think a fear, a combination of this fear that she would just get pinned on 20 position changes, even if she has a good answer, right when she could just do that in a debate and maybe make some of this go away. I think they are wrong because there's nothing that stops a reporter from re-asking something that got asked earlier.
Well, I also think that they're afraid, it seems to me, of taking the onus off of Trump, but I don't think you can get away with just playing defense the entire time. But let me ask you this, Dave. Who is give me a sense of I imagine you've been spending a lot of time in the swing states to the extent that you've been out on the road at all. Do you have a sense of what's going on in terms of who is what? Are there cohorts that you have observed or you see that you would have thought are supporting Harris but are not, or vice versa in terms of Trump? I mean, what phenomena are you noticing out there?
No, it looks a lot like the Biden coalition of 2020 because the Biden coalition wasn't gathering much in public. The change I've seen and Democrats see is that one, there are voters under 30 who a lot of them could vote. Some of them are entering the electorate for the first time, and Trump is going past mainstream media because this whole time they're complaining. He's not sitting down with them meet the press. He's just doing podcasts. He's reaching out to racially diverse men under 30 who, if they vote, are a powerful bloc in a lot of states that didn't vote last time. That is their overall theory. And are they showing up to rallies and stuff? No, not really. I mean, this is a thing you'll find with a lot of Trump rallies. And this is why it's clearly gotten under Trump's skin that Harris is the first opponent he's had and get a big crowd. They keep trying to find ways to prove that they're not real by saying, well, there were people who were shuttle bused from one section to the other, or there were some buses that came from Massachusetts to New Hampshire, and there were, they rented them, to transfer people to New Hampshire. I've been to enough Trump rallies where you talk to four people, and the first four people you talked to came from out of state. You saw it in Butler when he was shot at. Two guys in the front row of the Trump rally did not live in Pennsylvania. They were the guy who imitates JFK Jr. or says he's JFK Jr. and Brick Suit, the guy who wears a brick suit to symbolize the wall. They just travel to Trump rallies and they're at them. So you haven't seen a change in who's showing up for Trump. It's more people who are just going to go to work, pay a little attention to the campaign, but on their podcast, it's like, whoa, Trump talked to this guy and he seems really relatable. I'm going to vote for him. That's the only new coalition shift I've seen, really.
Let me ask you this about Trump rallies. My understanding is that I don't know which congressman represented Butler, which Republican, but had said this is not a good place for you to have a rally. I've heard, and then there was a story in North Carolina, I think it was, that some city was demanding money up front from the Trump campaign because they had screwed them in the past. I have been reading, and I want to get your sense of this if you know anything about this, that the reason why Trump has been insistent on having outdoor venues is because all the indoor venues from 16 and 20 in this, and there's a relatively closed circuit because of the nature of our electoral college, that they've been burned and will not have the campaign there unless he pays in advance. So he's going to sort of alternate spaces. And the Secret Service now has to put him around some type of Pope mobile so he can give a talk. Have you heard anything to that effect?
Yeah, it was Erie, Pennsylvania, where the rally was not the rally from last time Trump was there. The venue was never paid. They said, please don't come back here. And Erie doesn't have that many big venues. So that's definitely been happening. That has not been a problem with Democrats. When they complain about media pressure, this is one of the things that comes up because it was a story that I remember right now talking to you, that in 2015, Hillary Clinton left a poor tip at Chipotle. It is not a story in a media market that Donald Trump didn't pay for his rally, and they get annoyed that he doesn't take more flack for this. But that is true. He also is not running as much of a rally-centric campaign as he did in the past. He's got this debate. He's going to do a presser in California before a fundraiser. But this is, I think Felix Peterman sometimes talks about this being reverse 2016. It is a lot more like how Hillary was running at this point in the campaign, where she did what she had to do. She would have a rally to kind of get the earned media, but she was doing a lot of fundraising. And this is, we haven't talked about it yet. Trump got outraised by the Harris operation almost 3-1 in August. Well, is that repeatable in September? I'm not sure, but I haven't seen much of a tip-off in the online enthusiasm for Harris. So he's not doing as much in person. He's been everywhere. People know who he is. What is the return on investment of having yet another rally in a place he's been a lot? I mean, the thing the rallies teach you is more. He's going back to North Carolina. He's going back to Arizona, which means those things are not off the board yet. But he's not going to Virginia, which means it is. The rallies themselves are not driving a lot. He's doing a little more earned media, and usually you're doing earned media. He's not out of money by any means. He can fund the campaign, but usually you're doing rallies and earned media. Sorry, you're doing earned media because it costs money to go on TV and it costs money to stage an event. Harris's plan, I believe, after the debate is much more immediately aggressive about going out in public, and this is again the thing. This actually reminds me a bit of what Trump is doing. Reminds me of what John McCain did in 2008. They had a problem that Barack Obama was very exciting. He got big crowds. The Trump people kind of goaded them into having town hall meetings that were smaller, where he would take questions because they got the press asking, "Hey, how come Obama is just riding on this wave and he's not as accessible?" They're doing a version of that with Harris, with the confidence that she is not as good at talking as Barack Obama is. And I do think a lot of this is going to get a revisit after the debate. If she tanks the debate, a strategy is going to change. If she comes out of the debate looking about as good as she did out of the Pence debate, which I think has been underrated, how good she was, then yeah, they're going to revisit this. But I don't know if they're ever going to sit down and let's talk about these questions, because they learned this in 2020. Joe Biden said he wouldn't ban fracking, he wouldn't have defund the police infinite times. I mean, I remember him getting this question again and again when he went out. It did not stop the Trump campaign from buying ads with all the money they're raising for the paid media, saying that he was going to do it. He was going to ban fracking. He was going to defund the police. That's part of the caution, too. Not that I'm defending it, but it's not like she can give an interview answer so good that people stop asking about something she said in 2019. It's the Trump campaign, all right? You've got J.D. Vance right now urging people to make more racist, anti-Haitian cat memes. Like, they are not going to say, "Oh, you answered that. We're going to play fair." And that's the thing. How overly cautious do they become? How weak do they look? Because they just look at Trump, say, he's not going to play fair, we're not going to bother. I think they've done too much of that in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I think so too. And then on the fracking ban in particular, right? Like, she's just trying to blunt that. They're just trying to blunt what they know is going to come from the Trump campaign, right? But in terms of her debate strategy, we're hearing, we played this yesterday, Fox News and literally every conservative show is basically begging Trump in public not to go personal. And by personal, they mean don't talk about her race and don't talk about her gender. And, that seems to me like she should anticipate, and her team should anticipate, that he's going to heed those calls, especially given the fact that the format is so helpful to him because they capitulated to the muting demands. So what is the counter to that counter? Like, what does she do then, as opposed to just looking competent and being able to speak about policy publicly? What's the counter to that?
Yeah, this is not me from inside the debate room. I mean, like, they're all talking the same Democrats. They're not saying what the strategy is, but it's kind of overdetermined how much benefit women have gotten from Trump looking sexist. Like, we remember him saying nasty woman to Hillary. We remember Harris saying, "I'm speaking to Mike Pence," when he was actually kind of over talking, which won't happen this time. And those weren't why they did well in those debates. They did well because Trump was spun up. And the way to do that recently, and this is both friendly interviewers and more hostile interviewers, even the debate with Joe Biden, is just kind of mention something he wants to argue about, and he can go off into space talking about it. I mean, he did this. He'll mention half of a sentence that makes sense if you watch Rumble all the time, and it doesn't if you don't. And he'll refer to something he saw on TV 2 days earlier that sound confusing. And what Trump could do to Biden that he can't as much unless Harris really tanks this, is just kind of break the fourth wall and say, I don't understand that. Did the audience understand that? There is a way to, because interviewers don't do this with Trump. There are not interviewers, especially in this kind of friendly zone of people who just want to hang out with him and talk about how great he is, who say, but Mr. President, that answer made no sense. They say, well, let's get back to this.
This is like the classic right-wing bubble problem that they have had forever, is that no one says, wait, what are you talking about? And
and even a mainstream reporter, if they just want an answer, they'll just talk, and they say, yes, but come back to this. So what would happen if Harris says, well, I didn't understand what the foreign president says, perhaps he's confused. And because I saw this work when Rick Scott beat
he's
Joe
going to
Nelson.
lose it. And here's the other thing.
Yeah.
The rules say, and people have not picked up on this, but the rules say that ABC can change the rules about the mics and the crosstalk. If they start cross-talking, they can unmute the mics. That is in the agreement. And I'm convinced that she's going to go in and she's going to do exactly what you said. Like, she's going to say something that is going to set Trump off. He's going to start cross-talking, and she'll start cross-talking, and then they'll go, okay, we're taking the mics off. And then it's off to the races, because if she has the ability to question him as he's talking, he's going to fall apart, I think.
That's her strength.
That's her strength. And so it's going to be interesting to see if ABC, the big tell is going to be this. If ABC at the beginning of the thing, if they announce, we have an agreement to mute the mics. However, if there is excessive crosstalk, if they say that up front, then they will let those mics off. And I'm almost just based upon Disney and how they penny pinch. They bought Bob's Burgers, so I'm aware of this. How they penny pinch and this and that. They're going to go for whatever is going to get them the most, sort of mileage on this. And I think the mute's going to come off. That's my prediction.
Oh, please.
But let me ask you one more question, Dave. That from a reporting standpoint, do you have a sense of what's going on in terms of the ground game? Because this is so elusive, it seems to me, in terms of like making an assessment. Because I hear so many different things. I think I remember the Clinton campaign, we got a great ground game, but it turned out that they didn't have a great ground game, that they actually, instead of sending out canvassers 2 or 3 months out, they modeled who their, algorithmically who their voters would be. And, we heard on the day after the election, we have Mike from Pennsylvania, who now has his own show, had called in and goes I was doing Get Out the Vote, and we were knocking on 25% of the doors we were knocking on in Pennsylvania. They were Trump voters, and that's a huge screw up. What do you know about the ground game for the respective campaigns?
Yeah, Democrats have shared more about this, and they generally have more going through the Harris campaign and the National Party. They have a few state parties that are standouts. Everyone will tell you how good the Wisconsin Democrats are, who started in March. I was just in North Carolina, where they knew all year they'd have tight races statewide. They weren't sure about the presidential. And they were saying, they did in 2020, it took a while for us to get resources. This time in spring, when Biden was tanking, we were getting the money we need to hire people. What happened after that, this is the state party chair and other Democrats talking, is that just Harris swapped in, and there was this explosion of interest. And all these people who had not done anything since 2008 even were coming back. And the young voters who may not even been there in 2008, but they were getting a lot. Everyone who had a memory of 2008 was comparing it to that. And that's kind of what I saw at Democratic events. I mean, I was at Democratic events in areas that Trump won, where the crowd was all from within the county. And the people who don't look like didn't look like diehard Dem voters, more kind of middle-aged, college-educated people who were Republican 10 years ago. And Republican stuff, I saw energy, but it was kind of organized through the local county Republican parties that have been, popular social clubs for a lot of people in these places. So I saw more top-level strong organizing from Democrats and a little more grassroots from Republicans, and they're always going to have that. They are confident they're going to have more money and more people knocking on doors run through a command center by Democrats than Republicans are. Republicans are counting on a lot more luck at the grassroots level.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll see. I don't know. What's the next big thing? Okay, so we have the debate. The vice presidential debates in another week or two or so, right? Or early October.
It's October 1st, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess 3 weeks. What else, when you're looking at your calendar, are there dates where you say, if this is this way at this date, I get a sense that that's going to happen? Or is it just sort of you're just going day by day?
Yeah, this is a good week to talk about it, because I really thought after this debate, if the snap poll, if Harris is ahead before the debate, which she narrowly is, and if the snap polling says that she won the debate, I would say that is a good sign for her. I don't see anything that would crush Democratic enthusiasm in the next few weeks. But this tonight was my first benchmark. Was okay. Let's see how she does in this debate, because I thought this in June. If Biden had a good debate and didn't look that old in June, he would have come out of there fixing some of his problems with he's too old to be president.
Yep.
My read of the polling is that basically everyone who is not going to vote for Biden only because he was too old has moved over, almost all of them, to Harris. There's almost no third party vote to speak of. The ones who were sticking with Kennedy are now, a lot of them split for Harris too, but went to Trump. So her favorables are 50-50. She does not have the Hillary Clinton popularity problem. She does not have the Biden 2024 age problem. She has Trump being seen by more people than he was in the past as somebody who could turn things around and bring change. And so how does she cut into that? It would start with the debate. And yeah, if you head into the election in that setting where she has retained her favorables and raised more questions about Trump, yeah, I think she would be favored. But I'm not really a prediction guy as much as what is snapshot at the moment guy.
Right.
That's why I was looking for this week to say, okay, they've done. If you told a Democrat in June, we're going to swap in Kamala Harris, her favorables are going to go up to 50%, and she's going to be tied or ahead of Trump in swing states, all of them would have said, that's great, we'll take that deal. So they're in a better position they expect to be, and they're still worried about it. They're right to be worried about it. I just think that we won't have another view of this until debate's off. Then there's the day of spinning what happened in the debate. There's the attempt to take the moment and make it into something. If she ends this week with more people saying, no, I think she's ready for this job, and Trump's too little too right wing, then yeah, she's going to be in the best position of a Democrat running against Trump ever has, probably.
And RFK, is he gonna be a factor at this point, or is it is that already sort of baked in? Now we're seeing these head-to-head polls already, and
yeah,
RFK has done everything that all the damage he can do.
Good question, because this is Kennedy he talks all the time. He's talking about having a list of 4,000 interviews. He does them all. So he pops up on some podcast every day. He's pretty repetitive. His thing about Harris is he's annoyed that she didn't talk to him, and he's annoyed that she won't do interviews. The area he's trying to help Trump with, or I should say the demographic he's trying to help with, is what I talked about before, is you're a young man who thinks the system's broken. You didn't want to give Trump a third chance at age 78 to be president, but Kennedy says the system's broken, so we can do that. His ability to move people who are concerned about, for example, pesticides in the air, I don't think he's getting much traction on that. And to be fair, he doesn't talk that much about it. No. I don't want to sound churlish about this, because am I the best interviewer in the world? No. Do I demand everyone talk to me? No. But you do watch a lot of interviews that have no interesting content, because all the interviewer wants to do is hang out with the subject. And that's what a lot of Kennedy and Trump do. It's just, dang, I got this guy in front of me. You've lived through a lot of stuff. Do you want to talk for the hundredth time about the CIA, maybe killing your dad? He's not like scoring points for Trump every day on there, but he's just present. And if you've got the right mixed media, you're seeing Kennedy on your phone all the time, reminding you that Trump is great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just saw him do some like video with somebody who's like some type of cultural, I don't know who it is, but she's got like, I don't know, 1 million followers on Instagram where he's jiggling. Did you see that one?
Yes.
Where he's jumping up and down or something?
Gosh, I did see that.
It was with Amber Rose. That's who it was with. It was with Amber Rose, right?
Maybe facing crypto
I
jeopardy.
did see that, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
But that is the kind of thing that does say, like, what is it? Now, he's not the candidate, but what is the downside of Harris doing some easy stuff that makes her look accessible? There really isn't. The campaign was too cautious. Would Trump have been satisfied ever? No. Was Trump demanding stuff that he wouldn't do? Sure. But, yeah, like, people are conditioned to just want some fun and some access from the candidates. They don't need for her to answer a specific set of questions, just like, oh, she's accessible and she can think on her feet.
I don't know why she's not going on like lifestyle podcasts and stuff like that type of thing. Like, honestly, like, you know, even like The View or
she should be doing The View.
Like how
she can cook. That's her thing, right? Like she likes to, you know, she has good taste in food and alcohol and
like
music and stuff.
Bill
Like
Clinton going and playing the sax on Arsenio Hall, like that type of stuff.
Yes, exactly.
But
I think that and all that stuff I think would have happened if, let's say, Biden had said October last year, I'm out, and she would have run for the nomination.
Right.
It would have gone differently. She wouldn't have avoided that stuff. She couldn't have run from the Rose Garden. There would have been other Democrats thinking about it. It's just, you see their dilemma is they got crammed into doing this in 100 days. And 100 days after we're now 60 days, or 56 rather. 56 after the election, you're not usually doing that stuff. But everything is new. I just definitely think and I do think with campaigns are like the return on investment from going on Meet the Press and talking for 20 minutes is lower than going on Theo Von show.
Or Colbert for that matter. Like go on, you know, you go on Colbert and then, you know, whatever the shows. It'll be interesting to see if there's a change in strategy or tactics after this debate. But Dave, you're going to be in the room, aren't you? Are you going to be in the spin room?
In the media workroom, the spin room, which was really useful in June. I mean, and the first question I asked every Republican in June when the debate was over in the spin room was who was going to be the Democratic nominee. And I was saying like, hey, I'm not being sarcastic. Who is it? And I not that I knew it was every beat of what would happen, but it was interesting that really only Matt Gaetz suggested they might try to swap out Biden. Every other Republican from the Trump campaign said, oh, but it's too late. They can't do it. It'd be too hard. They're stuck with him, yada, yada. And it became very clear to me that Democrats were going to explore this.
Yeah, they had it's amazing to me how they were so flat-footed on this. I mean,
Gaetz is helping Trump with prep, by the way. That's one of the Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard, right?
Yes. The Gabbard thing's interesting, too, because the legend of the Gabbard thing is that she destroyed Harris so badly that she never recovered, etc. That exchange with if you go back and watch it, one, Harris made a incorrect bet that it was smarter for her just to not engage with Gabbard because she was polling at 1%, and you look silly if you're polling at 20 arguing with a 1%er. She was too cautious in that moment, but that's the only thing you only get in a 20-candidate, well, at that point, 10-candidate debate. Like, you can't do that in a one-on-one debate. It's not even a question. And two, the answer was not bad or rambling. It was her just defending her record without engaging Gabbard. It's the kind of thing where I think if she did that with Trump, it would come off as a good answer, but it wouldn't include a fight. It wouldn't include like a punch back at him. And so what is the mix of that? That's what they're trying to figure out right now.
Yeah.
Dave Weigel, always really it's so helpful in terms of understanding and getting a perspective on stuff. Have a fun time in that media room. That media room, I've been in that room. It's sort of like, sort of feels like you're in a vacuum, I guess, on some level. Like everybody's sort of, my experience of being in those debate rooms, and I was in a bunch of those, I think in 2016, it was fascinating to me to watch the reporters watch the other reporters. Like it reminded me of being in like like in a room full of comedy network executives where everybody's looking for the cue from other people on some level. Like, wait, did somebody land a punch there? It's sort of fascinating, but and then you get the whole spin thing, which is also sort of interesting itself. But Dave Weigel, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, guys. Good talk.
Thanks, Dave.
Really interesting, and I do think like and again save the emails and the IMs about this. We're talking about the horse race right now. I mean, I get it.
We can have fun with that too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just sometimes, there is, I think there is some evidence that Harris could help herself with differentiating herself from Biden, particularly on Gaza. There was an interesting stat I just saw that I think I might have it here somewhere. Trump is more trusted than Harris on Israel.
I think that was YouGov.
But you have to ask yourself, I think it was 27% said neither. And I'm just, can you pop that up? Can you find that YouGov thing? 27% says neither. And you wonder what percentage of that 27%, how many of those people are basically like waiting for Harris to do something, know that Trump is not going to do anything, is not trustworthy on this. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He started the Abraham Accords. He gave, the green light for Israel to annex the Golan Heights, which, Miriam Adelson said, like, I hadn't even asked him for that. That was a bonus. I think there's every reason to believe that he will give the green light to Israel to annex the West Bank. And, and all of that comes with an increased, sense from Israel that there are no restrictions. Now, I think it's quite clear that Joe Biden has no restrictions on Israel, and Harris has yet to signal that there will be any, although, maybe in a nuanced way. Maybe.
Through the Washington Post, but that doesn't travel to voters. No one cares except like us.
Even in that, that Phil Gordon written on her website, it doesn't go nearly as far as I would want it to, but there is a sense that perhaps they would condition, not embargo, but condition some arms sales. But be that as it may, just assume not. I think a cohort, did you find it, that YouGov thing? A cohort of that 27%, I think is, would give Harris the edge. Yeah, here it is.
Oh, it was ABC, not YouGov.
ABC. The war between Israel and Hamas. 33% trust Harris, 40% trust Trump, 26% neither, which, if you look down that list, is the highest one. There is no doubt in my mind that there are more people who want conditioned weapons in that 26% than not.
It'll be interesting to see how she responds, because, gosh, I hope there's a question about it tonight. And if she does, I'll make my prediction what she basically will say. She's going to repeat the same lines.
I am working tirelessly.
We need that ceasefire. Just got to find it somewhere.
But what my prediction is, she will say one thing to try to differentiate herself, and she will say that Trump uses Palestinians as a slur. That's my prediction for the evening.
So manners.
Basically. Because she's gonna, that's like,
There's no way that she's gonna do, if, and it's a big if, and I think, right now it looks doubtful, but if she was ever to differentiate herself, to do a Humphrey, it's not going to happen during the debate.
It's not. Especially because she just released her platform, which was just copy and paste everything she's been saying. That's just the State Department line about the ceasefire, or what Phil Gordon at least has been saying.
But a change, let me put it this way.
Slight change.
A change, if she was going to break with Biden, is going to travel further amongst the people who want it rather than not, if she does it not at the debate. If she makes a change at the debate, it will travel just as far with people who don't want her to differentiate herself from Biden and the same people. So, she's better off, doing, but I'm not saying that I think that's going to happen. I'm saying that's.
But at the debate, to your point, that's as far as I think she's going to go, because she'll try to hit Trump on that.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But it's wildly insufficient, as we say every single time.
Folks, we've gone late. Just a reminder, tonight, we're going to stream live on the main channel, the one that you're watching right now. But it's just going to be a shot of me doing this. You're just going to see me like this, side of my face.
It'll sort of be the Brett Cooper angle for Sam.
That's right.
The Dutch angle.
I don't know who that is, Brett Cooper.
Remember we did the Dutch.
Oh, yeah.
Female Ben Shapiro.
And, but we're going to do live stream. What's the channel name?
It's a youtube.com/Majority Report Live. It's in the
that is actually a very good name for that channel.
We'll have some fun. I'll see you out the trail.
youtube.com/Majority Report Live. That's where we'll be live streaming the debate. The moment the debate ends, we're going to be back on this channel, and that's our burner channel, essentially.
Are we going to be live on Twitch and TikTok and the usual places?
Damn, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Just letting people know. Twitch people just go where you usually go.
Yeah. Yeah. If you normally watch somewhere else, that's why. Yes, I knew Kyle. That was Q Kyle. I know. But Kyle and I have this debate all the time. Should we have a private streaming service? But whatever.
Might be good to have one like halfway.
Well, we have Vimeo.
Dust it off.
Because you can also watch the debate on our website at majority.fm. So, it's there.
So get ready for that traffic, Kyle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ramp up. Folks, it's your support that makes the show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, you also get the fun half. And you get to IM us in the fun half. And if you were a member, you received an email from members at majority.fm with a link and a embedded code to give you first dibs at our live show the night of the election, November 5th, Tuesday night in Brooklyn at the Bell House. You got 15% off. If I had been able to do the math, I would have been like, not 15%, do 10%. But we did 15% off for members.
Our anti-math policy is
always cuts in favor of our, yes. 15%, that's huge.
So that's live now for members?
That's live now for members. And check your emails. If you didn't get it, send us an email at majorityreporters@gmail.com or at members@majority.fm. Put in live show in the subject line, and we will send you the link. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee and hot chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Emma, ESVN.
On ESPN yesterday, we broke down week 1 of the NFL season, game by game. We talked a little bit about Tyreek Hill and that arrest, although we hadn't gotten the video yet, which is even worse than what we anticipated. And some more topics, youtube.com/ESPN show. Bradley messed with me and I got frustrated with him. So you can check that out, youtube.com/ESPN show. It's giving me wrong names.
Left Reckoning tonight. Griscom and I are going to do a little bit of earlier show, do some public post game on Twitch. So patreon.com/Left Reckoning. We're trying to grow our Twitch. And also this weekend, talk to Ben Case again, who he's been doing something, trying to get a ballot initiative in Pittsburgh about defunding Israel. and kind of the avenues promised there, and also maybe the legal challenges that you run into trying to do something like that very quickly. It's a very interesting interview, and I think direct democracy is something I think that we should maybe look into more, because it's an interesting avenue, as especially certain things that are really popular with the people aren't popular with either of the leadership of the parties. But check that out, patreon.com. So it's Left Reckoning tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern, or probably 6:30 Eastern.
See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?